Ever met someone who seems to understand you perfectly, yet something about them feels off? They might mirror your pain, finish your sentences, know exactly what you need, but leave you feeling drained, confused, or taken advantage of. That may just be the manipulation of a dark empath. Dark empaths fall into the dark triad theory of negative personality types, showing traits of narcissism, abuse, and manipulation. They possess high cognitive empathy, meaning they can understand your emotions, but only intellectually, for manipulation. In today's video, I'm going to reveal for you 5 dangerous signs that you're dealing with a dark empath, or R1, using psychology and peer-reviewed research. Enough prattle. Let's get into sign number 1. Sign 1. They use your emotions against you. A true empath feels with you, while a dark empath feels into you, and then uses what they find. Carl Jung called this participation mystique, a fusion where boundaries dissolve and the other person stops being separate. For most empaths, this happens accidentally. Childhood taught them to scan the room, read the temperature, soothe the chaos. Their nervous system learned to absorb before it learned to separate. But a dark empath doesn't just absorb, they harvest. They pull your emotional state inside, map it, and then hand it back to you, repackaged as their own insight, concern, or advice. Here's what it looks like. You share a fear. They nod, lean in, repeat it back with eerie precision. You feel seen. But then, days later, that same fear gets used against you. I'm just worried because you said you struggle with this. And suddenly you're defending yourself for something you confided. They are using your emotional vulnerability against you. This comes from what researchers describe as compromised empathy. They can understand your emotions, meaning they score high on cognitive empathy tests, but their emotional engagement is selective and self-serving. When your pain serves their status or control, they're attentive. When it doesn't, they go cold and distant. Do this. Notice if someone's empathy has a transaction or condition attached. Real care doesn't come with conditions and isn't used to control or influence you. Stay alert. Sign 2. They use love bombing. In the beginning, it feels like destiny. Excessive attention, grand gestures, rapid intimacy, what psychologists call love bombing. It's overwhelming in the best way, until it isn't. Love bombing involves building a blissful narrative. The dark empath builds an alternative reality where you are the center, they are indispensable, and the outside world fades. Lavish gifts, constant contact, boundary-crossing declarations, these create a feedback loop. You expect the intensity. You start to need it. And once that dependency sets in, they own the dial. Research shows that among people who left relationships with grandiose narcissistic partners, love bombing uniquely predicted PTSD symptoms, more than abuse frequency, more than childhood trauma. The whiplash from adoration to devaluation fractures your sense of what's real. And because the dark empath understands emotions, they know exactly how much warmth to deploy and when to withdraw it for maximum impact. Here's the mechanism. They combine isolation and intensity. They position themselves as the sole source of validation, then make that validation conditional. They might say things such as, "I can't believe you're overreacting like this," or, "I've done so much for you. You should be more grateful." The cost is invisible at first: self-doubt, worthlessness, identity erosion. But it compounds. Your wounds don't show, but they run deep. One study on young adults found that love bombing correlated with low self-esteem and insecure attachment, suggesting it's a strategy for people who need to secure others because they can't trust connection to hold on its own. Do this. Ask yourself, am I being loved or am I being managed? Sign 3. They project their shadow onto you. Dark empaths are often fluent in therapy language. They talk about triggers, boundaries, inner work, but it's all performance. Jung described the shadow as the part of ourselves we refuse to own. The jealousy, the cruelty, the need to dominate. Integrating the shadow requires a great deal of work and self-awareness. You have to look at the ugly stuff and call it yours. A dark empath skips all that, and instead, they project onto you. They take what they won't claim in themselves and see it in you. So when they accuse you of being manipulative, controlling, or cold, they're not describing you. They're describing themselves through you. And because they're so skilled at reading emotion, they can make the accusation land with a cutting sting. You start questioning your own motives. You apologize for things you didn't do. Meanwhile, their actual shadow, exploitation, deceit, superiority, stays hidden under a layer of apparent self-awareness. This is what pathological lying research calls identity fragmentation. The dark empath builds a false self so convincing that even they believe it in the moment. They're not just lying to you. They're lying to themselves, using projection to keep the real story at bay. Jung warned that when disowned material isn't integrated, it breaks through in twilight states, moments of high emotion or stress, where the mask slips and you glimpse the chaos underneath. The giveaway is the gap between their words and their pattern. They'll name the dynamic. I know I can be controlling, but never change the behavior. Insight without accountability is just another manipulation tool. It's a continuous cycle. Do this. Track the pattern, not the apology. Follow actions, not words. If someone names their flaw but never shifts it, you're watching them perform, not grow. Sign 4. They obsess over status. Dark empaths don't just want connection. They want status, and they'll use empathy as a tool to get it. The spin model, situation selection, vigilance, appraisal, response, maps how narcissists regulate status through careful behavior. A dark empath fine-tunes this with emotional intelligence. They select environments where they can shine. Social circles, workplaces, causes that let them position as savior or leader. They stay vigilant to status cues. Who's watching? Who's impressed? Who's a threat? They appraise whether to promote themselves or tear someone else down. And then they execute. Admiration when it works, rivalry or ignorance when it doesn't. What makes the dark empath dangerous is that they disguise status pursuit as care. They'll rescue you in public, making themselves look generous while positioning you as broken or weak. They'll share your struggles with others under the guise of seeking advice, but really they're establishing themselves as the stable one, the strong one. Every act of apparent empathy doubles as a move up to make them look like the best person. Research shows that narcissists prefer hierarchical, competitive environments and are hypersensitive to threats to their standing. When blocked, they pivot from charm to cruelty, what's called narcissistic rage. A dark empath will do the same, but with a twist. They'll frame the rage as hurt. I've done so much for you, and this is how you treat me. You're dealing with entitlement disguised as genuine hurt. Do this. Notice if their help always has an audience. Genuine empathy doesn't keep score. If someone's care always comes with a highlight reel or a reminder of what they've sacrificed, you're watching status work, not real support. Sign 5. They create your breakdowns. The darkest pattern is the long game. A dark empath doesn't just manipulate, They engineer mental breakdowns in others. Carl Jung documented what he called archetypal possession. Basically, when someone becomes so flooded with absorbed psychological material that their authentic self disappears. For empaths who've spent years carrying others' pain, the breaking point arrives when the unconscious finally rebels. You withdraw, shut down, or explode. And then everyone's confused because you've been fine for so long. What happened? A dark empath engineers this type of breakdown. They position themselves as your stabilizer, the one who understands you, the only safe place. Then, slowly, they destabilize. They withhold affection when you need it most, or load you with their emotional waste, unprocessed anger, shame, fear, and watch you try to carry it. Then when you finally crack, they step back, hands clean, and say, "I tried to help, but you're too damaged." This is the dumping ground dynamic Jung warned about. One person becomes the container for collective shadow material, the rejected emotions, traumas, and complexes the group won't own. In a relationship, the dark empath makes you the waste station. At that point, your breakdown isn't crazy. Instead, it's your psyche rejecting baggage that was never yours to begin with. The way out is recognizing the breaking point as information, not weakness. The body keeps the score, so pay attention when it gives you signs that something is amiss. Do this. If someone's presence consistently leaves you feeling like you're failing, you're not the problem. You're the target. Take time to create space, rest, regenerate, and think about things. As always, these signs aren't an excuse to label someone as a bad person, but they can give you insight into situations that feel just a little shady. In short, look for absorption used as control, love bombing that builds dependency, shadow projection dressed as self-awareness, status games disguised as support, and the long-engineered breakdown that lets them walk away clean. I wish you well. Thank you for joining me on this exploration into the psychology of dark empaths. If this resonated, please share your reflections in the comments below and subscribe for more journeys into the depths of practical psychology, philosophy, and personal development. Until next time.